She was brilliant, beautiful, and full of dreams. But behind closed doors, Rachel Winkler's life was unraveling. A picture-perfect family, a wealthy husband, 3 adorable children, but also betrayal, secrets, and silent screams. When she finally decided to break free, she never imagined that it would cost her everything. What happened inside that luxurious California home on the morning of February 27, 2012, shocked even seasoned investigators. Was it self-defense, or a cold-blooded murder carefully staged to hide the truth? Join us as we uncover the chilling story of Rachel Winkler, a tale of love turned lethal, and a killer hiding in plain sight. Rachel Hatfield was born in California in 1975. She is the second of 4 children born to her parents, Dawn and Diana. When she was 10, her father left after her mother had a brief affair with a neighbor, leading to their divorce. Rachel, her siblings, and their mother then moved to Georgia. After the move, she and her siblings rarely visited their father due to a strained relationship. Their mother had turned them against him, which contributed to him losing the custody battle. The family breakup deeply affected Rachel, making it difficult for her to cope with her parents' separation. During her teenage years, she developed anorexia due to stress, and her weight dropped to a dangerous 30 kilograms. She was hospitalized at a psychiatric clinic in Modesto, where she received effective treatment. She eventually recovered and even took up sports. After her recovery, she began to reconnect with her father, Don. He is proud of his daughter, not only because she is intelligent, but also because she is the only girl in the family. She became the inspiration for his work. At school, she consistently achieved excellent grades in all subjects. As an adult, Rachel dedicated herself to her career, driven by a desire to follow in the footsteps of her father, Don, a famous painter. In high school, Rachel met her boyfriend, Tim, who was also an artist. After finishing school, they moved in together. Like many in their profession, they faced financial difficulties in the beginning until they gained recognition and success. When they didn't have painting commissions, they created frescoes to decorate interiors, which turned out to be more profitable. This allowed them to rent more comfortable housing. Rachel attended Sonoma State University, where she earned a degree in business and marketing. She excelled in mathematics and impressed her teachers from the start. After graduating with high honors, she was offered a well-paying job, which she accepted. Nevertheless, she continued to support Tim and their art business. They had been together for 14 years, and everyone who knew them believed they had a bright future ahead, including marriage and children. It seemed they were meant to be. As Rachel approached the age of 30, she began thinking about becoming a mother. However, Tim was hesitant. He wanted to first stabilize their finances, buy a house, and establish his career. Realizing that this would take a long time, Rachel became impatient. She didn't want to keep waiting. This led to conflicts, and their once harmonious relationship began to deteriorate. By July 2005, their relationship was nearly over. Around this time, Rachel attended a dinner party where she met Todd Winkler. He was 8 years older than her and had built a successful career as a fighter pilot in the U.S. Air Force. At the time they met, he also held a degree in computer engineering and ran a thriving internet business. He was wealthy, owned a large house, and even had his own plane. In addition to his success, he was attractive and very sociable. Todd had been married twice before. He married his first wife at a young age, but they later divorced due to disillusionment. His second wife tragically died in a car accident in 1999. Eager to find love again, Todd was searching for the right partner. When he met Rachel, he immediately felt she was the one. She was equally captivated by him, and they quickly sparked a romance. Rachel ended her relationship with Tim to start dating Todd. Rachel and Todd were so in love that just a few weeks after meeting, they were already talking about a future together and having children. Less than a month later, he invited her to a party and proposed. She was so moved that she accepted immediately. Unfortunately for Tim, although he tried to repair their relationship, he was unsuccessful. Rachel informed her family and friends that she was deeply in love with Todd, the man of her dreams, who had already proposed to her, and they planned to marry that summer. They had a beautiful wedding, and Rachel took her husband's last name, becoming Rachel Winkler. This new chapter opened up opportunities she had only dreamed of. Together, they planned to build a bright future. She quickly let go of the past she had shared with her ex-boyfriend of more than 10 years, with whom she had overcome many difficulties. A year after the wedding, Rachel became pregnant and was overjoyed. On April 11, 2007, she and her wealthy husband, Todd, welcomed their daughter, Ava, whom she adored. A year later, their second child, Ariel, was born. During this time, Rachel stayed at home, doing housework and taking care of the children, while her husband went to work. In early 2010, the family underwent major changes when Todd was offered a managerial position at a prestigious pharmaceutical company, located 2 hours from their home. As a result, he began working late at his office in Alameda. During this time, the family lived in an exclusive area reserved for the extremely wealthy, where each resident had a private garage for their personal jet. Feeling tired of her domestic routine, Rachel took a job as a manager at the nearby airport, a decision that Todd supported. In September 2009, while Todd was working away from home, Rachel met a man named James White, who was doing repair work, and they struck up a friendly conversation. Around this time, her relationship with Todd began to deteriorate. The emotional connection and attraction they once shared had faded. According to Rachel's relatives, she no longer seemed as happy or vibrant as before. Todd discovered her growing closeness with James and became upset that she was spending more time with his colleague than with him. He began to suspect that Rachel had developed feelings for James. Concerned, he sought advice from his father-in-law, Don, who followed the Osin religion and upheld strong family values. Don strongly disapproved of his daughter's behavior, and both he and Todd believed Rachel was acting inappropriately. Don saw the situation from a personal perspective, as a similar experience had caused the breakdown of his own family. He decided to speak face-to-face with Rachel, hoping to understand her and help save her marriage. Don admitted that he should not have ended his marriage with Diana over her affair. A year after their divorce, he reconsidered the situation and realized that he should have forgiven her. Because of his stubbornness, the entire family had suffered. However, since he could no longer change his past, he urged his daughter to learn from his mistakes, reconsider her actions, and distance herself from James. Rachel promised to think about it. Despite her father's advice and Todd's opposition, Rachel continued to stay in contact with James, whom she adored. She confided in her friends that she had fallen in love with him. Realizing his marriage was falling apart, Todd frequently sought guidance from Don, who encouraged him not to give up. Eventually, Rachel realized that her father was right. She also understood that continuing the affair would affect her ability to raise her children properly. As a result, she chose to end her relationship with James and reconcile with Todd. Her father was pleased that she had taken his advice and preserved her family. Todd forgave her, and their relationship improved. A few months later, they announced to friends and family that Rachel was pregnant with their third child. Although Todd hoped for a son to inherit his business, Rachel was content to have a third daughter. In March 2011, The couple left their children with Rachel's father, Don, and went on vacation to Florida to strengthen their relationship. It appeared that their marriage had improved, as if they had rekindled their love. Rachel insisted that the baby she was expecting was Todd's, although some suspected she might be pregnant by her former lover, James. However, not everything was smooth in the family. Behind the appearance of happiness were ongoing arguments. After the vacation, the couple had a major fight, and Todd traveled to Australia for business, where he stayed for some time. He even paid for Don to visit him, but did not invite his wife or children, perhaps because the trip would be difficult for pregnant Rachel and the kids, or possibly due to deeper problems in their marriage. In Australia, Todd and Don enjoyed themselves, relaxing and going out almost every evening. Rachel, who had been separated from Todd for a long time, occasionally reached out to her first boyfriend, Tim, the artist. She shared stories from her current life, including an incident involving credit cards. Todd had issued several cards in her name and even purchased a plane under her name, which left her with a $50,000 debt. However, Todd quickly paid it off, so it didn't seem to be a major problem for him. To Tim, it sounded like she was bragging about her wealth. Tim still had feelings for Rachel, and hearing these stories was painful for him. But he continued to hold on to a small hope that they might reunite someday. When she was alone with the children and feeling bored, Rachel decided to pursue her ambitions. She returned to work at the airport and enrolled her children in kindergarten. Her father, Don, disapproved because he was religious and believed that a woman should stay home to care for her children. Moreover, since the family was wealthy, there was no financial need for her to work. However, Rachel was determined to continue her career, and eventually her father relented, allowing her to work and interact with others. During this time, Rachel's former lover, James, started his own business near her workplace. Don advised her to avoid James to resist any temptation, as he sensed that their connection was more than just friendship. James had been married twice, with his second marriage ending in divorce, and he was looking for a new relationship. However, he didn't want to break up another family, so he initially kept his distance from Rachel. As time passed, the situation changed. In early June 2010, Rachel called James and confessed that she was blindly in love with him and no longer wanted to live with Todd. This left James confused. Although both were still married, James still loved Rachel, and they began meeting secretly. Todd's frequent business trips to Australia made it easier for them to meet without raising suspicion. James even developed a bond with Rachel's children. The most difficult part for Rachel and James was hiding their relationship from neighbors. At times, they acted too openly, leading to rumors about their affair. Eventually, James could no longer keep their relationship a secret. He filed for divorce and confessed to his wife that he was in love with Rachel. His wife was furious and informed Todd, who was deeply upset. Todd called Rachel and begged her to end her relationship with James for the sake of their children. Rachel promised she would break up with James. However, she and James continued to meet, though more discreetly. In July 2011, the Winkler family welcomed their third child, a boy named Alex. Even though Alex was not James's child, James loved Rachel deeply and dreamed of a future with her, even willing to raise her children as his own. However, Todd eventually discovered that Rachel was still seeing James, which came as a devastating shock. Naturally, Rachel's father disapproved of her actions and supported Todd. Don suggested that Todd meet with James to talk things through calmly, like rational men. Todd agreed. Don and Todd went to James's house, where James and his daughter Caitlin had just finished target practice. The men spoke calmly. Todd explained that he was Rachel's legal husband, that he loved her deeply, and that they had children together. He asked James to stay away from her. James agreed verbally, but had no real intention of ending the relationship. In fact, Rachel and James were secretly planning to start a new life together. Rachel had told James that Todd was controlling and abusive, although there was no evidence to support her claims. She even said that her third pregnancy was the result of rape. This enraged James, who wanted to protect her. In October 2011, Rachel visited her university friends for the weekend. She expressed her frustration that Todd was not giving her money, forcing her to borrow just to buy essentials like diapers and food for the children. She said their house was in urgent need of repairs, but Todd refused to address the issue. She felt controlled and manipulated by him. Although she hadn't wanted a third child, she claimed that Todd had forced her into the pregnancy. She shared her concerns with at least 3 friends, saying she didn't know how she could continue raising her children in such an unhappy family environment. One of Rachel's university friends was a lawyer and offered her advice on marriage and divorce. Rachel began planning to take control of the family finances and aimed to reach a fair separation agreement with Todd. She hoped to secure her share and settle alimony peacefully, but Todd was firmly against the idea of divorce. In November 2011, Rachel stopped making mortgage payments on the house because Todd was no longer giving her money and was hiding his income. She began to suspect that he was planning something against her. On November 11th, she called her lawyer friend and said she was ready to begin the divorce process. While Todd was in Amsterdam on a business trip, followed by a vacation, Rachel began filling out divorce paperwork in February 2012. During this time, she told her lover, James, that Todd had discovered the electronic divorce documents on her laptop and deleted them. To prevent this from happening again, she began filling out the forms by hand. Todd had learned about the divorce, but he wanted to avoid it. Todd spoke to his father-in-law, Don, about Rachel, claiming that she was mentally unstable, which he believed was linked to the divorce. He said she was smoking, drinking, and seemed to be losing weight again. However, Don, who saw Rachel regularly, didn't notice any of these issues. Rachel explained that her weight loss was due to the stress from the ongoing divorce. The family situation had become extremely tense and appeared to be heading toward a bad outcome. By February 2012, Todd was deeply depressed, something even his business partner noticed. The partner suspected that Todd was dealing with psychological issues because of the divorce, but Todd insisted that the problem was with his wife. He even considered having her admitted to a psychiatric clinic, claiming she was on a drinking binge and that he needed a break to deal with the escalating problems. This conversation took place on February 10th. Divorce proceedings were set to begin on February 26, 2012. Rachel was counting on receiving monthly alimony to support her children. She planned to move with them to James's home and was expecting a court hearing. However, that evening, she never arrived at James's house. On the morning of February 27th, a neighbor saw Todd with the children, and everything appeared normal. Around 10:30 a.m., he left the children with the neighbor temporarily, saying that something terrible had happened at his home. He was waiting for the police and didn't want the children to witness the situation. The neighbor noted that Todd appeared calm, had no injuries, and simply seemed irritated. Todd then called 911 to report that 37-year-old Rachel had been killed at their home during a domestic dispute. Police arrived at around 10:40 a.m. Todd came out of the house and informed the officers that his wife was dead inside. He was arrested and taken to the police station, where he agreed to speak with investigators without a lawyer. Throughout the interrogation, he remained very calm. He admitted that his wife had been having an affair for a long time and had filed for divorce, seeking full custody of their children. He said that she had made him lose his temper, which led to a violent conflict. He attacked her, but stopped when he heard one of the children crying. Realizing the children might witness the fight, he moved them to another room. Todd said he then returned to argue with Rachel, and the argument escalated. He struck her in the face, prompting her to punch him back. He began to apologize, realizing his mistake, but then Rachel allegedly approached him with a pair of large scissors and cut his hands several times. They struggled as he tried to take the scissors from her. He said he poked her in the eye with his thumb to disarm her, then quickly left to check on the children. He told investigators that he was worried about Rachel's condition and behavior. He thought she was drunk and could be a danger to him and the children. When he returned to the bedroom, he found her sitting on the floor. As he approached, she kicked him in the face. In a fit of rage, he threw her to the floor and began strangling her with both hands. She grabbed the scissors again, but he said he took them away and struck her in the face and neck several times in what he claimed was self-defense. Rachel pleaded with him not to kill her and even promised to save their marriage, but he couldn't control his anger. He admitted that he forcefully stabbed her in the neck with the scissors. He confessed that, at that moment, he wanted her dead, although he claimed it wasn't premeditated and that her death happened accidentally. After the incident, Todd attempted to revive his wife, but she was already dead. In shock, he tried to clean the crime scene by washing away the blood, but soon realized it was futile and called 911. Detectives were skeptical of his account due to several inconsistencies. It seemed absurd that he would take the children to the neighbor's house, while Rachel supposedly sat calmly waiting for him to return after a violent altercation. Why didn't she take the opportunity to escape? At 10:30 a.m., Todd brought the children to a neighbor and then called the police. However, the medical examiner concluded that Rachel had died approximately 6 hours before the 911 call, which contradicted Todd's entire story. The autopsy revealed multiple injuries, including broken ribs and numerous abrasions. She had cuts and puncture wounds, primarily on her face and neck. The fatal wound was a deep cut to the jugular vein, which caused her to bleed to death within minutes. She also had defensive wounds on her arms and body, indicating she tried to fight back. Rachel was not drunk. She had consumed only a small amount of alcohol. The pattern and severity of her injuries pointed to a brutal attack. During the investigation, detectives learned about the death of Todd's second wife, Catherine. Although her death had originally been ruled a car accident, investigators decided to re-examine the case due to growing suspicions. On the day of Catherine's death in September 1999, the couple had gone hiking in the forest. Todd claimed he was stung by a bee and began experiencing a severe allergic reaction, requiring urgent medical care. Catherine drove their pickup truck, while Todd lay in the back seat as they headed to the nearest hospital. According to Todd, she lost control of the vehicle, which tumbled down a mountain. Catherine died in the crash, but Todd survived. He claimed he managed to escape the vehicle and seek help. Tourists in the national forest heard the crash and came to his aid. Todd stated that the adrenaline from the accident somehow cleared his allergic reaction, a claim that seemed suspicious from the start. When authorities arrived at the scene, the crash area was engulfed in flames. Rescuers were initially unable to descend the slope due to its steepness and had to use special equipment and ropes. It was puzzling how Todd managed to climb to the summit of the mountain without any gear. Strangely, despite the hot weather, he was dressed in winter clothing, which he blamed on chills and fever from the insect bite. Although he claimed to have been in the truck with Catherine, he had no visible injuries, not even a scratch. This was hard to believe, given the severity of the crash. He explained that he was thrown from the vehicle and that his winter clothing protected him. Todd also claimed he couldn't recall where the insect bite had occurred due to panic, and doctors found no evidence of a sting. He said Catherine was driving too fast which caused her to lose control. Catherine's autopsy showed that she died from smoke inhalation and thermal burns. Her body had been completely burned, making it nearly impossible to determine the full extent of her injuries. A medical examination found no signs of foul play. After the investigation, Catherine's death was ruled an accident. Todd collected over $1 million from her life insurance policy. Following her death, he cut off all contact with Catherine's friends and family, who already suspected him of staging the accident for financial gain. They had always found his version of events implausible, and their suspicions only grew after Rachel's death, leading them to believe that Catherine, too, had been murdered. In October 2012, Todd Winkler stood trial for the murder of Rachel. His version of events changed with each interrogation, echoing the inconsistencies from the case of Catherine's death. Many believed that Rachel's murder had been carefully premeditated. At that time, Rachel's father, Todd Hatfield, was granted full custody of her children. He saw this as an opportunity to make up for past mistakes and rebuild the family he had once torn apart. Todd believed that Todd didn't kill Rachel because of her affair or their looming divorce, but because she had discovered his dark secrets and threatened to expose them. In Todd's view, Todd silenced her permanently to protect himself. According to relatives, Todd had been violent toward Rachel in the past. For instance, her brother witnessed Todd physically attack her at a bar in San Diego in 2006. Rachel also told her family that if anything bad ever happened to her, it would be because of her husband. She believed he was dangerous. Rachel's eldest daughter later shared a disturbing family incident. One day, Rachel found a box in a closet containing the ashes of Todd's second wife, Catherine. She remarked that she hoped she would never end up as ashes herself. Todd responded by saying, "Then don't make me angry." This unsettling exchange left both Rachel and the children feeling uneasy. During the trial, more troubling incidents were revealed. It was alleged that Todd had previously attempted to harm Rachel. While they were scuba diving on vacation in Florida, he supposedly left her alone in the water, causing her to struggle to reach the boat and nearly drown. He was also said to have tried to push her off a motorcycle. However, these accounts were based on stories Rachel had told her friends, and some believed she may have exaggerated them. It was confirmed that Todd suffered from mental health issues, including dissociative and conversion disorders, conditions that can cause a break from reality. Despite these diagnoses, psychiatrists concluded that he was mentally fit to stand trial. Todd later emphasized his mental health issues in an attempt to lessen his sentence. At one point during the trial, he even feigned psychosis, but the tactic failed. The prosecution argued that Todd committed a premeditated murder. According to the prosecutor, he retrieved a pair of scissors, entered the bedroom while Rachel was asleep, and killed her. He then had 6 hours to stage a scene, inflict defensive wounds on himself, bandage his injuries, eliminate evidence, feed the children, and take them to a neighbor. Only after completing all this did he call 911. Bloodstains found on the children's breakfast plates suggested he had prepared their meal after murdering their mother. Later, Todd admitted that he had not called emergency services immediately. The timeline he provided did not match the forensic evidence. He claimed he took the children to a neighbor before killing Rachel and calling for help, but medical examiners determined she had already been dead for several hours. Moreover, the clean and precise bandaging on his hands indicated he had time to treat himself calmly, which contradicted his story. On the other hand, the defense lawyer argued that the killing was an act of self-defense. They claimed Rachel attacked Todd first. She allegedly grabbed the scissors and struck him. A struggle followed, and he believed it was a matter of life or death, choosing to protect himself. The jury deliberated for 13 days over the case details and testimonies before reaching a verdict. They convicted 47-year-old Todd Winkler of first-degree murder. In December 2014, he was sentenced to 26 years in prison, with eligibility for parole in June 2031, when he will be 64 years old. Todd has filed many appeals, all of which have been rejected. However, he has managed to secure better living conditions for himself in prison. He is currently serving his sentence at San Quentin State Prison in California.